Alright guys, so welcome back. I had a request for a follow-up on my Magnolias grown from seed. So this is October of 2020. This plant here in front of me is now, I guess, 1.5 years old. So it's planted in the spring of 2019, had a full season, and I overwintered inside the house because I didn't want to keep the seedling outside, just so it would have a better chance of surviving. You know, the first winter is probably the most highest mortality potential. So it stayed in the house dormant, up until about April of 2020. I then planted this out here in the out here at the farm, and as you see, I mean, it's a really healthy green, dark green leaves right here. Now there's a little bit of insect damage on these guys here, but like I said, out here at the farm, these things were not watered, not fertilized. This is just on its own, just naturally growing. Right here, you have some insect damage on that. But the most important thing is right there is the growing tip. The growing bud right there is healthy. The center stem is going to be just fine. Those little leaves are just going to, inconsequential. It'll outgrow it. But like I said, the most important thing here, it's really dark green. It seems like it's really healthy. Now I did kind of take some old logs and make a semi little raised bed, not really a raised bed, but more or less a border around it. And then, I keep topping up with some leaves and stuff in the inside here just to kind of retain a little bit of moisture, since I'm not really babying this thing, just letting it kind of grow on its own. So that's one of the Magnolias that was planted, I said, last year. So it's doing just fine. The other two are planted at my grandparents' house. So I'll have to get out there and I'll add that to this video. But also I started some seeds for 2020 from seed as well, and I'll add that towards the end of this video to show you the progress on the new 2020 Magnolia tree seedlings. All right guys, so stick with me and I'll take you to the other location. Here we go. All right guys, so checking out the other one. As you see, it's not doing nearly as well as the one I showed you before. This one is kind of in a bad spot. It's kind of a shadier area here at another location. The growing tip on this is still intact right here, but you can see there's been some leaf damage. I'm not sure if it's insect pressure, deer pressure, whatever, but it's not doing quite as healthy. So I'm actually considering digging this guy up here, potting it up, keeping it safe and indoors for the winter once it goes dormant, giving it all the best chance, maybe growing it in a container next year, trying to get a little bit more established before setting it out, and also choosing a better location. This is kind of in the shade on the edge of the yard because, you don't want to really mow around it too much, or, try to have to weed eat around it, things like that. So this may not be the best location for this particular specimen. So there's update on that one. There's one more to show you in a different location at the same property here that's in a little bit of a better spot. And admittedly, I haven't checked on it in a few months. So it'll be a surprise for both of us. Let's go down and check that one out and see how that one has been developing this year in 2020. All right, so this guy here is probably double the size of the other one. It's doing much better. As you see, the leaves are actually kind of angled this way because the sun's coming from back that direction, and it's in a much sunnier location. So yeah, this is definitely an example of planting magnolia trees in the proper location with plenty of sunlight. This area here stays fairly moist, so it's not been drying out. The other area is actually much more of a very clay soil. Here it is clay, but there's more organic matter in this soil where it's at, as opposed to the spot back there where it's just straight solid red clay. It was not a really good choice, but it was kind of an experiment just to hopefully, if it could have grown, that'd have been a great place for it to grow. But that one back there, I think I made the decision, is going to be potted up and taken away. This guy here is going to be perfectly fine. Maybe put like a cage around it for the winter, so prevent any deer damage and or late season mowing or anything like that that may go on around here. But you should look around. The leaves are starting to fall. It is middle of October here, 2020, in zone 6B, 7A, Charleston, West Virginia area, thereabouts, about 20 miles away. So for a point of reference, so yes, you can grow magnolias this far north, as they are not technically native to this area, but around the cities, everyone has planted magnolia trees. Some are probably 100 years old, just massive trees where I've collected the seeds over the years and started them. So there you go. So these are the guys that they're going into their second winter. So they've had one full winter last year inside. I planted them in the spring. They've grown all this year, 2020. And like I said, this one's going to stay. The one at my mom's other farm, the first tree I showed you, that one's going to stay outside. The one up there that's looked really bad, that's going to dig that one up, just try to nurse that back to health. And let's go ahead and go back to my house where I have some seedlings of magnolias I started this spring and show you how much they've grown just this spring and how I'm going to prepare them for winter of 2020. So let's go check those out right now. All right, guys, so I went ahead and did it. I went and dug that tree up that was not doing very well. Have it in this container here full of nice, rich, dark homemade compost I made this year. So setting it up for the best chance it has to recover and hopefully be able to put back in the ground next summer or spring, depending how well it looks. But just as a reference, this was planted last year, overwintered in the house, planted in the spring like I just showed you, and it didn't do well. Insect pressure or deer or whatever it was left it looking like this. Now in comparison, this is 2020's crop of seeds. So right next here, look at this, in this container, some are kind of small. This one here is a little small. This one here is pretty small, but you do have a couple fairly big ones right there. I mean, just comparing that with this little Charlie Brown little magnolia tree here. But there's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in here. There was at time a 6, but it did die. So there was 6 originally, 1 died. So if you look down here, if I can get an up close view of it, move this around. See right here? This is the actual stem of where the seed pod of the magnolia is. And if you've never seen a magnolia seed pod, which I'm going to make a video this year of collecting magnolia seeds when they're ripe on the trees, of course. I went ahead and just buried an entire seed pod with all the red berries with the flesh and stuff on the seed, just buried it in this container and left it overwintered outside. And in the spring, probably mid to late May, maybe even early June, I started noticing some of these seeds sprouted up. So I did nothing with them, planted them, they overwintered, stratified outdoors, and grew into these trees right here. So I did try some that I kept in the freezer, in the refrigerator, thawed them out, tried to do that stratification indoors like I did with these guys here for the year before, with a very low success. And actually I had a 0% germination rate with the ones indoors. So for those of you who don't know, magnolia trees have a very, very low germination rate. So case in point, plant a bunch of them outdoors like this. Make sure you put them in a container, keep them somewhere where they can stay a little bit moist, out of the way. You'll have the best success leaving them on the seed pod, at least in this example here. I did a couple other experiments in the flower beds and yards, and I had one other magnolia did sprout in one of the flower beds in a little section where I buried a bunch of seeds, and I got in a hurry in the spring and pulled it up thinking that it was a weed, and I tried to replant it, but it didn't take. So of all the seeds I've tried and all the different methods I've tried, this is the best way to do it. Just find a container and bury a couple of the entire seed pods, which like I said, when the time comes, I'll make a video linking that to this about how to collect the seeds in the fall and how to plant them. And there you go, guys. So that's the 2020 fall magnolias from Magnolia trees from seed update. Yeah, I got it out. But hope you guys liked what you saw. If you did, please go ahead and consider subscribing. Hit that thumbs up and leave some comments below if you've ever grown magnolias, or maybe you just like magnolias, or maybe you're lucky enough to have a giant magnolia tree already in your yard. All right, guys. So thanks for watching. Bye.